go and share my screen with the nobody who's here.
That's great. So I need to get with you about the inventory software. Just kind of picking your brain about us possibly utilizing that for assets as well. So maybe we can get together in the next month or so.
Okay, we ready?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for coming to my first meeting. I was going to start with introductions because I've met some of you, emailed to some of you, but I just thought it'd be easier so I know faces and things like that. So I'm Emma Williams. I'm the new internal auditor. I say new, it's actually been a couple months now. I still consider myself new though, but yeah. So that's me. If you haven't seen me before, but I've emailed you, now you have a face to the name. And yeah. I'm a student here at IU. I'm a grad student. So my hours are a little wonky. So if you ever get an email from me at like 8 p.m., all good. So yes, exactly. So yeah, and I don't know, just whoever wants to start.
I'm Jessica.
Perfect.
I'm the county treasurer. We work really closely with the county auditor on the general ledger and all the tax money that we bring in, all the things that they pay out.
Perfect.
I'm Richard. I'm the lead facilities manager. Been in the position about 2 months.
Okay. Yeah, I've been doing the timesheet changes and stuff, so I've noticed.
Elizabeth, personnel.
Perfect.
And I'm Jeff Cockrell. I'm the commissioner's appointment to be in the internal control board. I'm also with the legal.
Yeah. Perfect. I just wanted to do that because I'm terrible with names and faces. So hopefully that'll help me remember a little bit. Next, I just wanted to go over some of the things that I've been doing. And maybe talk about anything I've noticed while doing so. So firstly, I do the payroll claim audits. And those have been going pretty well. There have been some little bumps in the road as I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing. And I kind of wanted to get an opinion on, so like, obviously I come up with a report that I send out every time there are issues that I find with any of the timesheets. And I have been putting every issue that I found in the report, whether or not they have been cleared up or not, like with me. So sometimes I'll like find an issue first and then I'll like go through and like check my email and someone will have emailed me with a correction. I didn't know if that was like, would we rather have the issue on there, whether it's been corrected or not. I've just kind of been throwing it on there. So we have like a kind of a list of what's happening, but a lot of the time people correct. I wouldn't say most of the time, but a lot of the time people correct with me. So thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. Just to note that you did find an issue because you're reporting on that. And do need to follow up on those corrections just so that everything is correct before the end of the year.
Yes. Okay.
So that's my personal preference.
I get a lot of feedback when people get, departments get the email and then they're like, I thought I fixed this. You know, so I think it would be helpful to indicate on there that it was an issue.
Yes.
It was corrected.
And I have tried to do that.
It's a good little confusion. And people are asking me like, I talked to you about this and I thought we figured this out.
Yep.
Yeah, we did, but
yeah.
You know, so I think that would just help clear up a little bit of that.
Okay, indicating that it has been fixed. I've tried to do that a little bit. It's become an issue, I think, a lot with because I was doing like 3 claims at once because I was a little like as I was adjusting to the role a little behind on things. And I saw it a lot with like comp hours and things like that, like where people had, you know, over so many hours. But by the time I'd come to the last one, it'd actually be under. So yes. So I tried to, if I noticed that, go back and be like, you know, it's fine as of claim, you know, 17, but on 15, it's still like
Yeah,
that.
I think that's really helpful too,
Okay.
kind of look ahead. To
Yeah.
See if it has fixed itself.
Yes.
People have been panicking.
Yes.
That's not your fault. They know that they
Yeah.
know that it's fixed or they know whatever.
Yep.
But people
Mhm.
just get a little panic.
Yeah, and I understand that. Okay, perfect.
And they think
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and hopefully if they do reach out, like, that the process and can explain that we're reporting on issues found, whether correction or not.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's what I'm pretty cool.
Perfect. Thank you. Anybody? Any other?
Sounds good.
Okay. And then I've only come into a couple issues with the comp time analysis reports. And that is just a little bit of confusion because as Alyssa did, have been reporting when people are over 30, even though they're not like technically, incorrect in that. So I've had to explain to quite a few people that like, you're fine at 30. I just want to let you know where you're at in terms of nearing 40. Do we still I think going with 30 is still the right thing, like notifying them whenever it hits 30 is still the good thing to do, just so everyone knows and department heads know like where everyone's at in terms of comp time. But I did run into some confusion whenever I sent emails out with that, so I wasn't quite sure if that was not what I was supposed to be doing.
Maybe just a really clear email, like the threshold is 40 for
Mhm.
reporting purposes, however, you're at 30. Just a
Okay.
reminder type of deal, just
Yeah.
as clear as possible. If that
Okay.
would help.
Okay.
Do you agree?
Yeah, is it the feedback that you were getting?
Mhm.
Is that are they asking you if there's been a change in the policy?
Yeah, people have been like, from my understanding, it's 40, so I don't know why. And I'm like,
Thank you.
I'm gonna turn this off. Maybe.
You may have to mute your.
Yeah, I just did. Okay. Perfect. These are just my notes. Good deal. And I've got the agenda at the top, so.
That makes a lot of sense, just letting them know that you're notifying them
Okay.
that they're getting near
Yeah.
the 40-hour mark.
Okay, and I thought that like, just in terms of procedure, like letting people know when they're nearing 40 was, correct and good.
That was decided upon. Like,
Yeah,
I don't even remember
no,
when, but ages
yeah.
ago.
And I figured it'd been happening for like a while, but
Yeah.
the amount of people that were confused emailing
Yeah,
me.
there's a new person
Yeah.
emailing them, so they yeah.
Exactly, so I just wanted to clear that up with everyone.
I think it just kind of happens too, like when people have time to open an email, they see something and
Yeah.
they hadn't really noticed before.
Yeah, yeah, especially because it's a
Yeah.
new name. And then, so that's all I've really noticed on comp time. And I'm assuming once I send those reports out, there's nothing else I really need to do with those, like that's up to.
No, you'll get feedback and
Okay.
questions.
Okay.
And,
Perfect.
at that point.
And then I've been doing the, I'm still receiving 2022 annual disclosure forms. Those were due, I think, in February. But I am happy to say that I've got almost every single employee department, I've got every department head signature, which is fantastic. And then in terms of how many employees I don't have, I think the total is 5. So
That's pretty great.
yeah, I've been annoying, but I do have that, I would say, almost done. But given that 2023 is coming up, I would say probably done. Maybe one last, hey, just a reminder before the 2023 goes out, I do need these.
Yeah, I found it helpful just to remind them that this is a requirement from the county leadership.
Yeah.
It's not for
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I found that emailing, especially when I already have department head signatures on everything, emailing the employee directly helps as opposed to going
Absolutely.
through that second step. So that's just something that I found, because at first I was kind of emailing department heads this is what I need, but it's kind of, it can be all over the place, especially when there's a lot of employees of the department, like the sheriff's office, for example.
Sure.
And then in terms of 2023 annual forms, Alyssa had mentioned to me about a discussion of potentially going to DocuSign for those. And I wasn't quite sure where everyone stood on that, what everyone thought.
Can I chime in on that?
Yeah.
I think there are some options. I also have, you've been a new employee recently, and there are a bunch of forms I asked you to sign. Very similar to this, it's hard to get employees to fill those out, and give them back to me. You have to manage those files and things like that. It's very cumbersome. I think there are some options that Angie and I have discussed about that, that I think we can incorporate these annual forms into. I think until we figure out what that option is long-term, I think we can use the Fred Pryor training system as sort of a step for right now, where we can assign, I think we can at least assign the internal controls training through that, and they'll have to complete something saying that they viewed that training. I think that it's also possible for us to maybe do forms through there as well, and I can figure that out. But I think there are some options. Lao also has an option that we discussed with them.
So through time and attendance?
It's not, it's something, it's like an HR
Oh, okay.
thing that they have, but it's all about forms. So I would just say if we could maybe DocuSign is the answer, maybe not, but before you guys try and do something just for that annual form, I also need something for all the forms that I have to do, so maybe we can come up with something together.
Okay. Yeah, well, once you have a better idea.
Yeah, we've been thinking about it and talking about it for a while, so I think there are some options.
Okay, perfect.
For us to do, yeah.
The Fred Pryor thing, I had forgotten, thank you for bringing that up, we had talked about that. I haven't,
Would this be all electronic, or would they have the option to just print off and sign it too?
Yeah, I think that we probably need to give them an option, especially there are some employees that just never use a computer.
highway has been,
Yeah,
I used to physically just go out there and get it done. It was easier,
Yes,
so.
that is the easiest thing to do with them.
Yeah, does anybody else have any? Okay, because I'm not super familiar with like DocuSign and things like that. I've done it through IU for like stuff that they want me to sign, but I'm not quite sure how they do it so that it's like totally verified and like, you know, because I mean, in terms of internal controls.
Oh, you're fine.
You're fine.
Angie's had a day.
Okay. My initial thought with regard to DocuSign is that it's just gonna be really difficult.
Yeah.
To get everybody on board, but that's just my opinion.
Okay,
Everything new, it takes time, yes.
But I think that if you give them the option to do it as they've always done it.
yeah.
Yeah, either or would
Yeah.
probably be great.
And I was thinking that as well, not completely shifting over, but giving them that option.
We're talking about the annual forms for 2023.
Mhm.
She only has like 5 remaining of 2022. That's exciting.
Yes, very excited on that.
And I just mentioned that we have some thoughts on how to move forward with trying to get HR forms, these annual forms, just a
Yes.
way for us to do it electronically. So before we jump into DocuSign or whatever,
Mhm.
I think we can incorporate, at least come up with maybe some way to handle 2023 before we come up with a permanent solution.
Totally.
And like I said, I'm not familiar with DocuSign, but just from like a control standpoint, in terms of like verification on like identity and things like that,
Yeah.
it seems like that could, depending, I mean, obviously if Lao does something, then that would be a lot more like secure in terms of verification. And not that I think anyone's like really signing like disclosure forms for other people, but you know, just so stay on to the policy and controls.
They would
That would
both
be my,
meet the
Okay.
standards
Okay.
for internal.
that would be
controls.
my only thing with it. But like I said, I'm not very familiar with DocuSign as a whole.
I think the forms are due end of February, is that right? Okay.
There's something due in December too.
Oh, yeah.
Nepotism.
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 And so for nepotism, because they're due a little bit sooner, would we like to just continue as we had for that one?
That's my thought. And then just begin maybe with 2023.
There are a lot less nepotism.
Yes.
Mhm.
Perfect. Okay, And then next, Alyssa had mentioned to me about potentially doing monthly memos. And I just kind of wanted to go over what, if that were to start up again with me, what would be like included, what like time of month would be best for sending, just like kind of the logistics of all of that. If anyone had any ideas.
My first one.
Then I am open to brainstorming that with y'all.
Yeah, I really liked the memos when she was sending them, especially the meeting recaps. I think that's really helpful for people. And they have the choice to open email or not open email. I think quarterly is sufficient now.
Okay.
Hate monthly, sorry.
Who gets the monthly memo?
Oh,
This group or department?
Yeah, what is the monthly memo? That's, yeah. Where to find that?
She kind of explained it to me, it goes out monthly. She said that she would recap like the department head meetings and she would often.
Financial management.
Yes.
She shouldn't be recapping the department head meetings. Those are mine.
Okay,
And it's not
okay.
nobody wants to recap those.
I thought she had told me that you guys talked about that at one point and she was just gonna have a synopsis or something, but
No memory.
perhaps, okay.
I don't know why she would do that, though. I mean, it's not,
It's usually not, it's usually just kind of getting opinions and stuff or just throwing stuff out there, but.
yeah, I mean, I think to me that creates, there's a folder on the network, people can go in and look at, but
Those aren't
And they're-
necessarily internal control.
that is totally not an internal control issue.
The financial managers, I think.
That would be, yeah.
Okay.
Which we haven't been doing as frequently. We're gonna do an end of the year and we can get feedback on if people want them more often.
I guess
Or
I
let you
would
go.
think if you notice a trend of issues, right?
Yeah, and she did mention like any issues, like if there's like a trend of issues, say with like payroll, like for example, people asking about the comp time, like, hey,
Yeah.
reminder,
Yeah.
the comp time is, the threshold is 40, but
This is your friendly reminder for 30.
yes, exactly. That's where I put it in something like that. Or
Or if there was a personnel policy update or something,
Yes.
she would probably have noted that, is my guess.
That
Honestly,
would
I don't
come
remember.
from, the personnel policy update, that would come from E, because that's directly under the commissioners.
It was just something, this is something we had discussed as a group at one point and determined, I don't remember it being monthly, because I think that's a lot, but I know it was at least quarterly.
Well, I mean, it does say, what information to include, so.
Yeah.
And department heads get it.
And office managers,
And
Mhm.
financial managers.
they're included under office managers, I believe. So, in the past, though, my memory is that it would be like, we won't do it any, I don't even know when the last one went out, but no longer do department head, but it would include like any important meeting recap that she thought related to internal controls. She was including like, I think, any personnel policy updates, just so people are aware of the changes we made, but we don't.
I don't
do
think
that.
that's her,
If we're doing it
Role.
quarterly, I'm trying to think to the, like the next one, if it's by the end of the year, have a section on the forms that we need to fill out in February. I think
yeah.
Look at our
upcoming
internal
forms,
control
yeah.
policy and, every quarter highlight one of the aspects of it and explain why it's important.
Or assets that they not put out to Richard.
A reminder. of
Well, that's
how-
a whole, yeah, so that's new for Richard. So
Okay,
Richard is new to this whole thing.
Mhm.
And we've,
So that could be a topic, right?
Yeah.
One of the, just have a rolling topic. every
Yeah.
I think that people have no idea what internal controls
they don't,
Yeah.
means, yeah, so I think if you.
That would be
educate
really
them every
helpful.
quarter, that
Yeah.
would be helpful.
and so it's like, I don't know if we decided if it's the end of the year, or the beginning of the year, that we would have, our maintenance would go through each department and confirm that we still have these number of chairs,
Mhm.
this table.
Is that annual for inventory? Is that what you said?
I think we do it annually, just to make sure that it's supposed,
I know it's every other year for assets, but
yeah.
This chair's missing a screw.
No, we didn't,
I did not
we don't,
feel it.
we're not,
It is missing.
we're not tracking the screws, we're just tracking the chairs.
Those screws are under
Um,
department level control, Jeff.
I think it'd be easier just to do it on a yearly, and I don't think it'd be that hard because people surplus things, as we're going through the year, and it's just a matter of, each department should have their, like, I would have the guys create a list for you. So like in my department, I would have a document that says, there's my office, Jill's office, front desk, back office. Have in that space 12 chairs, one conference table, that kind of thing. And then I can just go through and make sure that they're all there. And then with like Wayne or somebody, and we check it off and I sign it and then he'd sign it and give it to you.
Does your software allow for you just to print a report for your office in particular?
Yes.
Cool. So like it's by location or whatever.
Yeah,
Cool.
I mean,
That's
at
helpful.
least the fleet. portion. I haven't really. looked at the tables and chairs.
Mhm.
Pretty sure I can go and see what's all listed under their inventory.
That'd be super helpful when you go do that.
So it's all in the software, not in the
Manager.
spreadsheet.
Yep, it's
Right.
not software, manager
Ours.
plus. Yeah.
Yes.
Which we're working. toward. I told him I would like. We
Yeah,
would like to discuss with him.
yeah, definitely. I'd like to see that too.
Like, I'm pretty sure it's all. in there. I'm sure there's also a lot of things.
I think Greg was pretty good at getting most things. Now, parks with.
I mean, I've encountered the occasional file cabinet or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's like when people offer them up and they say, a file cabinet that's looking for a
The
home.
whole transfer thing, I don't necessarily think. it's
We
happening,
need
but-
to, we need to figure out how to make sure that transferring is recorded.
Quarterly memo to all people. But that would be a good topic, right?
Yeah, for
The
sure.
Mhm.
disposition of assets.
Well, and I've noticed that many people are confused on what constitutes inventory versus assets and
Mhm.
how the procedures differ for either. So,
Maybe this is just
So there's-
thinking out loud, but maybe in those quarterly memos, you can include like the retired inventory and assets and new inventory and assets. And if there's anything additional, hopefully people would reach out. I don't know, just thought, the running list has been kind of difficult for us.
Well, you guys don't worry. Okay, so
We don't care about inventory.
you don't
no,
care about the inventory.
But just to have it
Mhm.
there, if anything else has been transferred or gotten rid of, people could let us know if they haven't done the forms or whatever.
I think that it would be yes, instead of Richard having to say, this is what's been transferred, this is what's been
Mhm.
surplus, because that's kind of a duplication.
So far, I've just done some things with the highway garage. And honestly, I had a hard time figuring out that chair with the cords. I thought I had to hang on to it, for
Uh,
2 or 3 months or whatever until I got it in front of the commissioners. It was a little, I thought I was supposed to send the auditor's office, just
Yeah.
going through the list of things to do and.
It's because that document is designed for both a fixed asset, fixed capital, as well as our
Well,
inventory.
and our inventory is not like pens, right?
No,
Right, so.
inventory is this.
Historically, when you think of inventory, you think of things you use and then they go away. But our inventory is based on a dollar level and not kind of a use level.
Mhm.
So, there are things on our inventory list that if you want to get rid of, it should go through the process.
Right. But hopefully, didn't we fix that inventory list?
Yeah, I thought that was all.
Okay, good, because that was insane.
The EV asset or inventory list, asset list we fixed, we raised the threshold.
Yes, that, yeah,
But everything that then was on that asset list got moved.
it's into inventory,
list.
yeah.
And there's still some things we should
yeah,
surplus when we get rid of that are on the inventory.
because inventory, it's like, not only does it meet like under the asset dollar amount, but it's also got like a shelf life, a living life, a use life, I guess, of, I want to say like longer than a year, if I'm remembering off the top of my
Right,
head.
that's generally the things that, so we're talking about tables and
Yeah.
chairs,
Yeah.
computers, those are the things we're talking about. chairs, so sometimes you don't have to, I mean, you surplus it so that we take it off, but we don't have to keep it. We can throw it away. If
Oh.
it's not usable, we can throw it away.
We went through that. If it's trashed. and
It's trash.
And it can't sell for anything, you get rid of it.
Yes,
Right?
Yeah.
But you just get it on the list and get it on the community.
Yeah, so that we can take it
so
off.
We can maintain our list.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
We went through that, right?
yeah, we did. But sometimes it gets
No, it's.
mixed up.
And we don't revisit it for a while.
No, we don't.
It's scary.
Quarterly.
Can I offer a suggestion, and I don't know if this would be helpful, but could you make like a video or training or something for S departments, like to kind of go over this and then, because I think, you'll get a lot of questions people don't remember, and I think it's easy to just refer them back to this, like, here's what this means, and here's what this means, and here's how these are different, and then I think that'll come back on some of the work.
Well, and we-
Responding,
Yes.
and I know some people learn differently, some people watch that video and they might understand that more, some people might read the documents that you send out and they might understand that.
Some people will do neither and that.
Exactly, and they're
every time.
still gonna ask you, it.
Mhm.
only account, but I think, I know that we've been trying to do some of these Zoom recordings and send those out, and I do think that people reference those and they go back to them, so I think that something like that could be helpful.
Okay. Yeah, I like that because we have like a document that like goes through the difference, but like a lot of people don't know where to like find said
Yeah.
documents. And shouldn't
Oh,
necessarily,
I
like-
tell you, I don't know where to find it.
Yeah, and I think the only reason why I know is because I have to. so
Yeah, exactly.
It's in my folder,
Yeah.
so.
And I think that that's something that would be good to go out, is to tell us, is to remind us every time where we can find this
Yes,
information.
Love that, yes. And she probably has most of these things included on her, you know what I mean, on her template, but it's good to go through them again.
Did you burn yourself?
I did, I was putting baked potatoes in the oven.
Oh,
It hurt.
yes.
I always burn myself cooking.
My
Yeah.
parents had, their oven is low, so I just happened to.
Uh-huh.
See, we always put baked potatoes on the grill.
Oh, those are good too.
My mom does them in the oven and we don't question
I do them in the
her
oven, they're the
reasoning.
best. Oh, they're the absolute best.
Crispy crust, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, some
We usually
oil
have
and salt
something
on
else
there.
we're gonna put on the grill with the potatoes.
Any other suggestions on the quarterly memos? Okay, and we can, if anything comes up, I can always, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I just ask for, I like bullets.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I will,
I don't like super wordy stuff.
yeah,
It drives me crazy.
yeah, same here. I will not read it. I will grab a section and,
Yeah, your emails that you've been sending out,
yes, anything, yeah, that's been good.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect,
Mhm.
thank you. Yeah, I
My little
don't,
brain handles those fine.
that is something that was preached heavily to me all throughout undergrad, was that nobody like wants to look at your big wordy like PowerPoint, or you're like,
Mhm.
if you're making a flyer for something nobody wants to read. We process so much information in a day. We want the
Yeah.
short little spurts. that
Keep
we-
it under a page.
Yep,
Yeah.
If it's over a page, people won't read it.
yep, kind of like your resume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and even a page has to be kind of like that spot in the,
Yep.
when your email opens up. Fits in there and we're good.
My only other thought is I hate that retirement form. It was just the best I could do at the time when we
Yes.
were trying to put it
Yeah.
together. So don't be afraid to make a suggestion of a better
Okay, because I
form.
think it is causing
Problems.
confusion.
Mhm.
I totally agree.
Yeah, so
Um, I'm gonna make note of that then. Thank you.
Yeah, change it away. And work with Richard, because the retirement form, he definitely will have a say in it. And I actually think it would be beneficial to have one for the airport, because they have their own they have their own commissioners that have their own
Yeah.
authority.
There is one specific to them
Yeah. I thought
somewhere
there
in the
was one.
file. I just think we've gotten away from maybe. using it.
Yeah,
okay.
so they need their own retirement form, and then the non-fixed, if you would, asset retirement is what would be Richard's primarily. You guys have the fix like the buildings
Mhm.
and
Big
now the
stuff.
question for that is, well, if we sold the building, we would be retiring it, wouldn't we?
Mhm.
I would-
We declare surplus.
We would,
I don't know if you were,
we would declare a building surplus?
yeah, that means so that would mean we no longer have use for it, right?
Right.
That's essentially what surplus means.
Okay, so then, but we still
It would
sell
have
it
to
for
be
the
formally retired though to come off our.
Well,
inventory.
but the commissioners declaring it surplus is kind of the formal
Okay.
retirement for county. Basically, we aren't using it anymore. And then in that case, we would probably also want to, once we actually do the transaction to get rid of it, there'll be a deed or something like
Yes.
that. You probably would want a copy of that to attach to that surplus.
Yes, because I think that we need to keep the manner in which these things go through. So like the department head would initiate it for the most part. So for our things, the department head's going to initiate it and give it to Richard, who then would bring it to legal. And then we get it on the commissioners to do the surplus thing. If it's
Yeah.
not of any value, we can go ahead and pitch it.
And there's been confusion on what, like, when it
The
comes
process.
to us and when it doesn't.
Yes, you don't get ours. You don't ever need our assets information. No, you only care about the fixed ones.
They just all come our way.
Running
because of-
inventory list.
Exactly.
Because the forms-
Chairs,
Yeah, that's the only one you guys
don't
really
have,
care about.
like, a running inventory.
No.
list of chairs
No,
and
uh-uh.
everything.
No, we only have the
You've
capital
got it.
assets
That's.
on a giant Excel spreadsheet workbook, which is what I want to get with you eventually. It was a good starting point when we were,
Mhm.
but we're beyond that and we need something a little bit better. So if we can use your software and not reinvent the wheel, that'd be great. It'll work
I
for
think
us.
we can, and I would get with Greg too, because he also understands it and because it's set up to do it by buildings even, we can
It's great.
do all of that.
Could be-
Yeah, so anyway, going back to the fixed assets though, on that process, it would actually be the commissioners who would initiate the surplus, the retirement. And then once it was done, send it to the auditor to be removed from, retired from your. Now, how do you guys handle roads? Because aren't roads, like when they're in the build
Yes.
phase and
So-
then,
Okay, so there's a bunch for infrastructure. Highway keeps their own schedule. They're required to, I guess the SBOA used to do it ages and ages and ages ago,
Uh-huh.
but then it became part of highway,
Okay.
taking care of that. So they have, all those roads that they're repaving, retiring. She has a schedule that Lisa keeps track of.
okay,
Then as far as construction in progress, she sends me a separate schedule every year, and that's what we were trying to really get
Oh.
a good handle on. 'cause
yeah,
Historically, we haven't had all that information like,
Right.
easily accessible. So this year, it's perfect.
okay, because those are the
As perfect as can be.
projects in
Yes.
process.
Yeah, and it's not all highway, mostly highway, but
Right.
there's a handful of parks or trails or whatever stuff going on too
Yeah.
usually. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's been.
It's like if the
Little bit
bridge is
of a
half built,
problem.
you have to say it's half built.
Right,
Nothing or everything.
instead of saying like, it's, roughly 50% complete, we're saying we've spent this amount out of this amount of expected project cost or whatever, so. Just before, the nightmare was figuring out where the expenses were coming from, because they were coming from a lot of different places, different lines, and it was just, me trying to retrieve it from not being familiar with
yeah,
their stuff. And they didn't really like
I
the
don't
idea
think
of
they know
providing
that.
that to me.
they didn't know their
So
stuff
that
either.
was troublesome. And
That was
then I would
awful.
go through it with them, like, okay, is there anywhere else that this expense, this project could possibly come from? And we would say no, and then like in investigating other things, I would, sure enough, find some other expenses that I have to not at this point report, so I was pulling my hair out.
Uh-huh.
But we're in a good spot now
Good,
for the moment.
good, good,
And we're gonna have a procedure meeting and get everything locked down, I think.
good.
I think it's just like, I don't know what on my end, what they do, and they don't know what I do on their end. And so it's just
And communication's hard.
having that come to Jesus,
Yeah, that communication,
Yeah.
well, this is how, tell me.
And even
How it
language
works.
barriers, because I don't
Yeah.
necessarily understand.
Oh,
what
no,
they're-
totally.
Yeah, so.
Yeah,
we'll get there. We're getting it to a much better spot. I feel great about it. So
So I'll tell Lisa.
great, strong word. Maybe I feel good about it.
Okay, so is that anything else on the memos or anything? Because if not, then we can move to anything y'all want to bring up. Any questions, comments, points of concern, anything you want to see from me in terms of internal controls and things like that? Because I mean,
What is it?
Whoa, I got wrong.
I mean,
I've got something.
give it to me because I genuinely, because I am very new to this, I love doing things like my own way, and I'm still trying to figure out my way to do things. And Alyssa's given me a fantastic foundation to build off of. But making the position my own, I think is really like detrimental to me as someone who really enjoys, I'm getting my master's in policy.
It's
So
pretty awesome.
thank you. But so I really enjoy these things. So in terms of anything like that, I would love to hear suggestions so I can really hone into it.
So I had talked to Kathy because E and Jordan need somebody else. There needs to be, so it's odd that that I have Jordan under me. Jordan is definitely payroll, and E is under me, which makes more sense with the personnel side of things, but I got both of them. So anyway, they try to help one another out, but they really need, and I really want somebody else to come in and look at payroll, learn that system, and be able to do it when Jordan isn't here. And also then act as a true oversight of that process. I've been working with Lau, and Lau knows that, we have a certain way of, Jordan has a certain way of doing things. And I like to understand things kind of from the beginning up. And I don't understand what he does from the bottom upward. And I'm unable to understand when he communicates with me what he's doing. So anyway, long story short, I told Lau, I want our payroll to be as efficiently done and effectively done as possible. Just because what we're doing is working may not be the best way to do it. That's what I'm trying to get to is there a better way to do this? I know that we do some of the problems that we have, and we need to be able to identify why we have these problems. But some of the problems we have with payroll is we don't perf everything. And that's a council issue. But what I would like to see is a list of, we have to run this payroll because council doesn't allow this to go toward perf. Whereas other counties, their longevity and everything goes toward their perf. We don't do that. And so I would like to have a list that says, so we have to run a separate payroll, if you will, for longevity payments. And we do that because the system won't allow us to run it without perf being involved in the first place. Something like that, that makes sense. And then E, she can always use.
There are some things, there are no, the things that Jordan does and things that I do, nobody double checks those things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if there's an error, we have to correct that after the fact because there's not an internal control. There's some that are kind of built in when Jordan and I do some data entry, but there are other things, especially end of year things. We're creating files that he's uploading. We're trying to benefit some deductions and things like that, and there's no double check on those things.
Yeah.
So we're counting on us doing it correctly the first time and then fixing any error that happens after the fact. And I think we need to have some better internal controls over the information that's passed between the two of us.
Sure. So with regard to that, do you have like a root document from which you're working, so you know like where you're making these changes and putting in benefits and everything? Then can you export a report of like what was done so that she could just go through and audit it without knowing that part well?
Yes, I do. I get weekly activity reports for the benefits that I enter, any changes, and those should match the deduction file that we get from the benefit system that Jordan uploads. That is certainly one double check. But there are also times where maybe I entered something incorrectly. It's not showing up on the activity report because, you know, there's some things that I need to figure out how to best double check. There's certainly what you're asking for. Yes, there is that. But there are just payroll in general also. There's no, it seems like Jordan should be the double checker, but then they're also, you know, just the way that things are done now. It could be different once we use time and attendance.
Right.
It'll be less errors, but sometimes, you know.
Well, that's gonna be another conversation once we get that as far as payroll audits too. But anyway.
Yeah, and you understand, you've done some budget things. The more you look at something, the harder it is to see the mistakes that you're making.
Right, oh, absolutely.
So if we could, maybe you, me, Jordan, Angie, I don't know, if we could meet and kind of figure out what those things are that we need some additional help with. Of course. Figure out a good process for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's perfect. That's a perfect use of her time, I think, is a couple more audits or whatever needs to be.
Mhm.
We're not trying to like
Yeah.
bombard you with.
No.
Oh, you're not, don't worry.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Particularly the benefit thing, if there's a.
We've
you
had a lot
can-
of problems with benefits in the past too.
Yeah, we don't have those problems anymore. Our new system is much better, but
Yeah.
at the end of the year, I'm manually double checking every single employee's deductions by myself.
And
I
that
think-
seems crazy.
Yeah, I think that's a really good end of year audit for you to take on. You know, I mean, we haven't really introduced you to the audit stuff yet. So she actually, you're welcome, but she actually has some time because she doesn't, not a ton of time, she's learning, but you know, she can get some stuff,
Yeah.
I think.
And I will say just the things that would help me, FMLA audits would be really helpful too.
Oh,
Like I
yeah.
said, I think now it's hard for me to keep up with that. I try as best as I can. And right now it is, everything's in those spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And it will be much easier once we're using the time and attendance system. We'll be able to run reports and things like that.
Yeah.
So I expect it to be much easier for me in the future, but if we just have a discussion about some of those things that could have another set of eyes on it.
Yeah, of course, because that's something I've kind of noticed auditing like timesheets is it says that FMLA time needs to go through you first. And I'm like, do I assume that it's already gone?
Right,
through?
exactly. How
Yeah, don't-
Like-
You kind of have to flag those.
Yeah, don't assume it's.
And how would I?
It should
do
have,
that?
but
A
yeah.
person could just give-
Right.
A department could just give an employee FMLA and I might never
Okay,
know.
that's
Yeah,
great to know,
that
actually.
is how that works.
Because, yeah, I'm like,
Anything that you're not sure of should definitely be flagged and
Okay.
revisited.
And I'll tell you, the courts might be the worst at not going through.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is also that people are not, I try my best, but people do not put the FMLA time on their time sheet correctly.
yeah,
And so that it's hard to monitor those everybody's time sheets when I've got like 30 people on it. Right. It's hard to look at every table. So that, and like I said, time and attendance is gonna fix a lot of these issues.
Yeah.
So it's a temporary thing, a temporary conversation.
Right.
But certainly being able to come up with a plan moving forward.
yeah, of course.
And I was thinking of ARPA,
If,
right? Because they're struggling remembering everything. Right? And then I think if the plan goes through as it is intended, we're going to get bombarded with a ton of stuff all at once. Now, I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but
what do you mean?
well, if they ever get to the point where they've had their little committee meetings and they all come up with a plan, they're
Everything's in
gonna
order.
improve $20 million of one sitting
Mhm.
in who knows how many different projects. And I can tell you, I'm aware that there's a lot of reporting and things like that, but I don't get it, right? I don't get what we have to do as far as that federal stuff. I do know.
Different,
Yeah.
you know.
I think that something that would be be very beneficial for these yahoos to receive is a breakdown of what you need for the ARPA, which means, do you need a contract? Do you need to confirm that this money was expended for X, Y, and Z? What exactly do we have to have? Otherwise, we're going to have to pay it back, and we don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think we've been kind of working on that. The MOUs, usually, it seems
Yeah.
like they're covering that, but people don't understand I guess the whole procedure, like the overview of it, because everybody has their own little parts, like the commissioners are working to approve these projects and they approve the project, but then it seems like we're missing the step sometimes of adding it to the plan because we're not necessarily getting that info that it's time to go into the
See,
plan, right?
And what I think's happening is that one of the commissioners will say, that's a great idea for
Yeah.
ARPA. We'll do that.
Yeah,
To whoever is asking, and then it never comes.
it never comes.
Yeah, it
back,
comes through or
right?
whatever.
So it's not really,
Oh, so it's
in
not
the-
really approved or whatever.
no.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. So unless
But
it's
you're
on the
getting emails
council,
from people who think it's been,
Well, see, and
Yeah.
I didn't go, I sent you an email recently. I didn't go back to check the minutes because I was working on other things today. So I don't know if that was actually approved. It was for,
the sojourn and the other was approved.
yeah,
sojourn and
And
I'll have to look at it.
kitchen for,
no,
This one that I'm thinking of, I can't think of what the
What was
project was. It was Emily,
oh yeah,
something or
Hope
another.
House,
Yes, New Hope.
New Hope, yeah.
Yes.
was that approved? I didn't
I
think.
thought that was for the kitchen.
I'd have to look back. I just don't know, but we don't think it's been in the plan yet. I sent you the latest revision that I'm aware of. And I'd have, like I said, I'd have to go through and look at the agendas and
Yeah, I
minutes to
don't
see if there was
remember
another.
adding
That
anything
was
for New
June.
Hope.
And then of course, like then if it hasn't gone into the plan, it hasn't been appropriated. And then we also, MOU is necessary or contract.
I
or
think this is a
whatever.
council question. I think it went to council. I think Penny Giffens went directly to council. And I think that it was in the plan under some other cover. Sojourn House was for the,
I thought the two were the Sojourn House and then the Head Start program.
oh, that's it. Yeah, Head Start. Yeah, not
Head Start.
Emily's.
Yeah. those
Emily's
two
is in
were
the plan. Okay,
It
yeah.
is?
No, Emily's is in the committees.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's in
So it's
that,
not been formally approved.
nothing's been formally approved.
Yeah.
Well, she said it had. Penny directed her to me to get the disbursement.
No,
Okay.
I'm not aware of it being,
Yeah.
I was aware they were talking about it, but I wasn't aware of anything of that.
yeah, they've not approved it. It's
Yeah.
part of the whole,
Yeah.
it's online on that whole, how would you,
But you could see why
Allocate the money.
the problem we're having with
Well,
the need
yeah.
for a little
Yeah,
additional.
she had gone, so when I responded, I asked, is this part of ARPA or, because I had no idea what she's been talking about.
yeah,
And she informed me that it was part of ARPA, that it, I think she said it had been approved by the commissioners. And I said, well, if that is the case, it needs to be
No.
added to the plan and then we'll have
Right.
to appropriate and go to council.
I'll find the
Blah, blah,
email.
blah, so.
I'll look for that email and
Day
see.
one.
I'll res-
All over again.
Oh, it's the 51st date. That's how
Yes.
It was a dream compared to this. This is so much more intense.
And it's all
And it was a
because,
lot less money, obviously. but-
well, and we could make it easier.
Well, I had my fingers all over that, so like I at least knew the whole process, but not that I
Well-
want my fingers all over this one, but.
And this process,
I think needless to say, at some point in the next 12 months, they're gonna make some decisions and we're gonna get like 20 different projects all at once,
mhm.
right? And my biggest concern is
No one's
Well,
monitoring.
the
that.
email we got.
Yes,
from the-
exactly. Nobody's monitoring these programs.
Oh, my gosh. that
The email we
email.
got from the treasury today was that we're no longer providing any support for any of this ARPA
I
stuff.
forwarded it to
And
you.
headlines I see every week are fraud,
in ARPA funding, Minneapolis, like
Holy hell.
millions of dollars going to food banks where they never provided any food. Like, so we could come, I don't think anything wrong is going to happen, but we can approve every step of the way that we spent the money on the things that we approved to be spent on, we'll be fine.
Mhm.
But fraud is happening. Fraud is definitely
Well, the
Isn't
happening.
problem
that
is
awful?
they've not been responsive at all anyhow, so it's not gonna really change much. But they're stating that they're not having call centers, they're not gonna respond to emails, there's no assistance, so. we're like,
Wow.
just look at they're just saying, look at the policy, look at the policy, so.
So,
Which we have questions on.
well, I have a lot of concerns about, because I looked at on our website, all those proposed projects that we have on there. When you look at the work, the information, the guide sheet from the Treasury,
Mhm.
it's all very specific to COVID.
Yeah.
And those people affected. You know, the minorities, the underserved,
Yes.
who were probably more impacted by COVID. And I have a really hard time understanding how we're tying an ambulance to COVID. I mean, I understand, you know, to the
Where is that on?
It is
This one?
an approved expense. It specifically says ambulance somewhere. And I'd have to find that for you. I dug it out at one point.
Yeah, I did
Um,
find it, but it was the ambulance. It also had a caveat. And I
Because
don't
it's-
think that we were using the
It seems
caveat.
like you can pretty much use anything in the health field, like use it for that as well.
Yeah, I don't think we can. I think
Not
that's where,
anything, but a lot.
I think that's where you and I actually were kind of, I felt like it was more restrictive, but maybe it's not, which that's fine, but I don't want to end up having to pay
Oh,
back.
God, no. I mean, we're in agreement there. The easiest.
So
thing
like,
to do-
like this, what about grants for social service agencies needing one-time funds exceeding those available through the Sophia Travis Grant Program? There's nothing in that that says that it has to be specific to the underserved. Oh, I know the ambulance, wasn't the ambulance something about? There are areas within the community, and I don't know that we have one except for maybe up on Miller Drive, Crestmont. It's got it has a name like low income or low,
Barrier.
no. It's a financial thing. It's where a section, so like if you have a section of your community that has been identified, I think by the feds as a,
Census block.
Socioeconomic.
Mhm.
one of those, yeah, a low census block.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do all kinds of things in that low census block,
Mhm.
but you have to have it. And I don't know that we have one identified if by the feds, unless it is Crestmont.
I think there are, because I'm thinking when we went through this, the governor had the ability to declare certain census blocks, and they either had to meet that qualification or be next to one that meets that qualification or something like that.
We need that information because if we,
They're all in city limits.
right. So again, that's my issue. You know, I mean, we can do it all within the city, but the city has their own money.
Yeah.
How, I do know that the retention ponds, I know there's a
Stormwater's-
stormwater kind of was its own little thing.
You could just report the funding for payroll use.
It'd be the easiest thing in the world to do. Then they could do
Sounds
every
simple.
single one of these things.
So we could go on NACO or AIC and see if they have a template for like some kind of way to track your ARPA funding.
Mhm.
Something that Alyssa could start, or Bree or some, you guys work together. Is
Yeah,
that-
right.
because in general, like, they're gonna approve the projects and they're gonna follow those, but for the internal controls committee, we need a way to track it. Is that what?
Well, and I think what we need is,
I think the auditors definitely.
because not only is it project
We're tracking it.
specific,
We have
it's amount.
Spreadsheet.
You know,
Yeah.
if it's over or under a certain threshold, you have a different requirement. If it's over or under another threshold, it's an even different requirement.
Mhm.
And we were talking this morning, if we
Oh.
bought land with this ARPA funding, what
Yeah.
strings does that come with? What if we gave money to somebody else to buy the land and they bought the land with it, do those strings still
Yeah,
attach?
There's always strings.
How did we
attached to
buy
capital
land with
money.
ARPA money?
And so we need to look at the,
Wow.
Yeah, how?
But we're not the only ones doing this.
No, but
That's what I'm
we-
I
saying,
don't-
is that
how does it
there
meet any of the
may be
criteria
something
for the
for
use?
counties, 'cause
If
it's the
I
same
am buying-
strings for everybody.
If the
right,
county
I'm also
decides to
gonna send an
buy
email to Mako
a
and to the
home
SBOA to see
or
if they
sojourn house,
happen
Oh,
to have
sure,
asked the
okay.
question
right?
before,
Yeah.
like,
If
what
the
are-
county,
what is the
that's
grant
one
policy
question,
like? Is
right?
there some
Mhm.
sort of legal
Second
or
question, what if the county
any,
bought
Okay.
Purchases, you know.
I don't
paid
care
for
about.
by-
County could-
50 acres and
How
said
they spend
it,
the
and
money. I
then,
just
and
don't
then
know.
worked with a local businesses.
Oh,
to
we're-
Oh, yeah,
provide
because
not
you and I
affordable
already-
housing.
you and I already
And
talked
the
about that. That'd be the
they have to
easiest way to
provide
do
us
this.
information
Right,
monthly.
there are a lot of
They're
different
providing
ways.
That's how, but
expense
that,
report
it's not to
with the
build, buy
detail.
land to put a jail on.
Bank
No.
accounts, everything.
Yeah,
No, that
we
the-
can't do that.
We've
What
only
it gets
had, like,
used for
5 things that
It's
we-
important.
would have to be.
Yeah, gotcha.
But then
that-
what I don't know
I mean,
is if we
yeah,
bought
we're
it,
all over the money.
What are the
and sold
restrictions?
it, do we have to get approval from the feds before? Because if we buy an
So, I
asset
have no
over
idea
$5,000,
Exactly.
we're supposed to get approval
I
from
don't
them.
need to know necessarily.
I mean,
until I
Generally,
ask
anything from the
questions, you know,
feds, you have to
and-
get approval.
Because they're being directed to me for.
But then-
Nightmare.
But then if it's under 50,000, you have a different
Like I said, until it's.
reporting
in the
requirement
process
that, you know,
of
it's
the
just,
council.
We really
So
need the
that's why we
commissioners
need,
to
you know, it's on our
not
radar
think
for,
that the council's gonna
we're
screw them over on
responsible
this.
for Retaining that information.
it's hard to.
I know.
But all the things in the
Because
works, like I said, no
They
idea.
need to talk it out and
Because
That's what
truly the
these-
payroll would be the easiest thing in the world to do.
It's just so much cleaner.
Mhm.
It's just, and then they have all this money, to just do whatever they want with all these
Mhm.
projects, and then we don't have to worry about a misstep.
Mhm. Well, there will be missteps because I think we already have some missteps in how we use money, but
not the ARPA.
not the ARPA.
I think we're good with the ARPA.
I think just regular money would sometimes a little bit,
No, everything's very clear.
I know. But it's like a
Well,
horse tank. It's
I
really
think the
heavy.
next thing you need to do is you need to interview Angie to see where our missteps with how we utilize money is.
What was it? Yeah, because we were just talking about it. I thought it had to do, because the State Board of Accounts, we were talking to them, and was it with the Sophia Travis grant? That we're doing something?
Seized assets is another mess we're gonna clean
Oh, do we have seized assets?
up. They've been going into the general fund of their other receipts. So that's fun.
Seized from like civil
Like
cases,
Drug
criminals
dealers.
or non-criminals or
drug dealers?
anybody that comes in with money into the jail. We take it and we hold it. And if we have it over 10 days, it just goes into other receipts for some reason. So we're working on,
Don't we
they're
own-
gonna need a separate bank account and stuff.
Can we own that back?
Well,
Yeah.
that is a whole legal issue, because that somebody asked me about that earlier this
I
year.
mean, if you,
And-
Depends on the order.
if
right?
you can tie it back to.
You have to tie it back to criminal behavior, but if they are not charged, we still sometimes, I think the question is, do we keep it? And if it's after 10 days, I know they've not been. I know that,
Usually Scott gets some
You don't
sort
get a
of,
we don't get resolved in 10 days, right?
If they're- right.
If I get arrested for being a drug dealer,
right,
I'm not prosecuted in 10 days.
no, you're not.
You have no proof and you have not
That's,
found me
that's a
guilty.
whole issue in the world, these seized asset things.
Yeah. I'm not
Because
guilty.
you're not proven, because you're not been found guilty.
We got,
and they still-
we got a lot of problems with criminal justice. Let's stick with ARPA.
Yeah, it might be easier.
After you achieve all your goals with ARPA.
Then we'll
switch-
just
we'll
work
switch
on
to
the
criminal
legislature for the,
That's my favorite topic ever, criminal justice policy.
oh, I bet. It's
Well, you should
Fun
be
one.
the criminal or the
Oh,
community
no.
response committee.
Jeffrey.
I've heard there's a lot of fun.
See, my name's not even Jeff.
Yeah.
It's not.
Jefferson.
Jefferson, yes, it is. Oh,
Mr. Jeffrey doesn't even make me jump.
no, Molly was talking to me about it today.
That's some stranger's mom yelling at them.
Jefferson, yes, I don't even remember that, but oh my God. Molly had me all stressed out this morning, talking about the last.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments, points of concern? Perfect.
Not related to
Perfect.
this.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, no,
Well, then I will say that we're done here with this.
Thank you.
And then in the future, I will, I mean, obviously we won't
When's the
have to
next
do.
meeting?
It
November
is
14th.
November 14th.
Or is this like a certain Monday or are these just random?
I don't
So-
remember.
Technically, they probably should be, but considering we only have perhaps maybe if there's enough to talk about for another meeting, one other meeting this year. And
I'm
I don't
looking
know
at
my,
her.
Okay,
I don't know my course
Okay.
schedule
I
yet
thought
for
you were
next
slowly falling.
semester.
Okay.
because My classes are kind of all
Look
over.
at you.
okay.
So once I get that figured out, then we can
I'm
kind
trying
The
of,
to see.
14th of Monday.
it should be a
Okay.
Monday.
On a totally unimportant
Yeah.
note. What is, who?
It's an anime character
That's what I
from My
thought.
Hero Academia.
You like,